Okay, everyone. So welcome to the Basel Communicators Network. We are here today with two very special guests, Lisa Ross-Magenti and Tim Ferguson. And they are going to be talking to us today in today's workshop about taking control, communications as the calm in the storm. So Lisa, over to you.
Thank you, Amy. So I think most of you I have done sessions with. I think we've met face to face. So I don't need to introduce myself. I'm going to introduce you to Tim. So Tim is CEO of Audience. He has led Audience for quite some years, and he started off in Canada. We now have offices in the UK, in Singapore, and even here in Basel. So it's been quite a journey for the company. But also Tim's been on quite a journey because he started off in theatre. So Tim, over to you as CEO, but tell us about your journey starting from theatre.
Well, thank you very much. And first of all, I'd like to just say thank you all for joining. I hope we can provide some value to you right now. You've probably been on like 10,000 hours of Zoom calls in the last like 4 days alone. And the idea of having another one at the end of the day, I'm sure you're kind of like, oh, this better be good. This better be good. If you click, and then maybe you're like camera or no camera, camera or no camera. And it's like, if it's really good, I'll go for camera. If it's not so good, I'll stay off camera. Fully get it. I'm just about zoomed out myself. So it's an honor to have you join. I also feel like I'm with brethren. I'm with my community. I'm with my people. I've been working in internal comms, specifically the internal side of comms, for 20 years, and I've loved it. I've loved every minute of it, and I feel like it's a special group of people, and to be able to say I'm one of those special people makes me feel very good. So thank you. The question about theater is, so theater school is longer and longer ago in my past, it seems. It's drifting back to something like 30 years, but it remains unbelievably relevant in my work. So that's the first thing, is that I feel like I use the skills I learned in theater school every single day, both in terms of helping clients figure out what they want to say and how they want to say it, and to rehearse them so that they communicate brilliantly. Also, very importantly, the concept of ensemble. And this would be my first message around calm in the storm. So when you're rehearsing a play, you need to get the actors gelled. You have to have a bond. They have to feel trust that they've got each other's back. You need to have rapport. It doesn't always happen, but the results are no good when it doesn't happen. What you're striving for is no weak link. So if some guy's playing the butler or the spear carrier or the maid who just has one line, those are all important. They can't feel not part of the tribe. So if you have an executive team, let's say, that your job is to help them show up and communicate effectively, if they're freaked out and you're freaked out, so now everybody's freaked out, communication is going to be all over the place. And all your brilliant Word documents and messaging grids and slide decks aren't going to help at all. They're going to be like leaves in the wind. And so it's a little bit counterintuitive, but I see one of the main functions of comms in normal times is to bring everyone together, find a way to bring people together and lower the temperature in the room, lower the heart rate in the room, so that we can get out of our amygdalas and into our prefrontal cortex and really focus on our messaging, our audience being effective. So that obsession in theater of how is the troupe feeling, how is the ensemble feeling, and are we grounded and are we aligned, is like probably the biggest gift that theater school gave me.
Thanks, Tim. But you talked about kind of being on a stage. I think up until when I joined Audience, that was quite a natural environment for you and all my new colleagues. Now, the second that I joined, we went straight into lockdown and we did a pivot. So maybe you could just talk a little bit about the pivot, what virtual means, and then we'll go on to the core of the workshop.
Sure. I think we pivoted on two levels, which I'm sure all of you did as well. The first is sort of the obvious one, is we pivoted to virtual formats like Zoom and Hop-In and Six Connect and all of these programs that none of us knew anything about until COVID-19. And so we made that pivot. But the more important pivot as an internal comms person, and I would think for external as well with your stakeholders, is pivoting to, it's almost like from comms to therapy. Like remote working is not easy. I've seen interesting data that from Switzerland that 20% of people right now are feeling like working remotely is negatively impacting their mental health. 1 in 5 people. I hear the days are unbelievably long, 7 to 7. One of the clients in the environment here has this lovely 7 to 7. You know, you can't have a meeting before 7 a.m. and you can't have one after 7 p.m. And they're having a difficult time enforcing that. There's data out there that says the workday's gotten 3 hours longer for the average knowledge worker. So I feel like as the comms person, we've had to pivot to helping remote teams remain together, helping leaders actually lead. Like if you were not leading well pre-COVID, it's a disaster right now. So if you didn't have trust with your team, if you didn't have a nice bonded culture around you, and now everyone's remote, like what's going on there? So we've pivoted in that way, and a lot more of the conversation is about mental health, physical health, spiritual health, shrinking the workday, and as the leader, walking the talk there, really modeling that kind of behavior so that you don't burn your team out. You know, they said COVID-19, it started as a sprint, it became a marathon, and now we're worried that it's an ultra. And what I'm worried about is that when it's over, whatever that means, everyone's going to collapse. You know, welcome back to the office. Oh, you're all half dead. What happened to you people? We can't have that. So we pivoted in those 2 ways.
So Tim, shall we go on to some of the content of the workshop? What we have seen is certainly in Switzerland that we go from lockdown and then we go to the easing of lockdown, and then suddenly now, as of Monday, we're going to be wearing masks on public transport again. This is just Switzerland. We will work on a global stage. So we've seen like India come in and out, Singapore come in and out. We've seen China coming in and out, but pockets going back in again. We're running global events, meetings, workshops, whatever they might be, but it's also, if you're job hunting, it's just as relevant. So we found our clients going, shall I go virtual? Shall I go face-to-face? Shall I do hybrid? What shall I do? So what we did was we knuckled down, we did the research, and we developed a decision-making tree so our clients could be the calm in the storm. And we want to give that to you today so you too can be the calm in the storm when it comes to those types of decisions. Over to you, Tim.
Yeah, if you do remember 3 months ago when the optimists thought that we'd be back to live meetings by September. I think a lot of the big congresses were really holding out, really thought it was going to be live. And what we noticed is that there was a lot of churn. People are just not making a decision, kicking the decision down the road week after week. And as you know, as comms professionals, if you can't get people committed to an idea and to say, okay, let's put a stake in the ground, we're doing the event, it's the 28th of September, and boom, let's start to plan. If it's will we or won't we, it's a lot of wasted time and it causes a lot of anxiety. So we wanted people to be able to make a decision early on. So we created this several weeks ago, but in COVID time, weeks or months, I guess, but it's still a very relevant tool. And we're just using it on a regular basis with clients to say, okay, let's make a decision so we can get to planning. And Lisa, maybe you can talk us through some of the details.
Yeah, of course. So, I think the principles of good business never change. You need to look after your people. You need to ensure that you have business continuity. You need to operate legally. So you need to operate within government guidelines. And then we have employers. So we need to operate within those company guidelines, whoever is setting them. So they're either set on a corporate level or on a national level. So these are kind of decisions, the kind of first major decisions you need to think through. And by answering the first question, colleagues, are there health and safety concerns with my next meeting, my next workshop, my next event, or my next networking opportunity? And if you get a yes, you probably want to go to the right and think virtual format. If you go no, you're going to go to the left of the chart and think of face-to-face. You'll see a little asterisk. You'll have this afterwards. You'll see little asterisks, and that's when you want to think potentially about hybrid. So colleagues are safe. Business continuity is good. So that his colleagues are safe. Yes, business continuity. Are there threats to the benefit to the business? Yes, government guidelines are telling you that events are restricted, so it goes to yes to virtual. Company policies are saying that sure you can have a face-to-face meeting, but you need a meeting room that was fit for 60 people, and you have 6 people in there. Maybe you're all going to be sitting around the corner of the table, and you'll be right close to each other. You maybe want to go virtual. You then have the international and local travel restrictions to keep in mind. What we've seen is borders opening, closing. At the beginning, it was relatively unstable. So it was very difficult to plan whether a meeting should be virtual or face-to-face. So go for the safe option, virtual. So these are all kind of fact-based. And then we get to feelings. Should your meeting be face-to-face, but your attendees are actually reluctant to travel either from one canton to another or outside Switzerland or inside Switzerland, around the world? This is something that we're going to have to take into consideration as well. In terms of us going solidly, look, you've got this brief, you want to have a global meet, and as comms, we would recommend virtual or face-to-face. Access. Now, this is a really interesting one for your decision-making tree, and Tim can even talk to it. He's living it right now. Access, we're all lucky, we have our phones, we have our iPads, we have, I'm plugged into the Wi-Fi here to override my kids and my husband. We have all of the tips and tricks to ensure that we have beautiful streaming and we can access Amy's poll, and it's going to go well. But many of our communities in the work setting just simply don't have that. So next week, Tim is doing a hybrid meeting with, how many, Tim? 3,000 or 4,000? I don't remember the exact, but lots. And it includes operations staff in a custom manufacturing organization in an emerging market. Or rapid growth market. So they simply do not have access to, those factory workers simply do not have access to the technology. They need to go to the site in order to access the kind of streaming that we're used to. So this is where we have the little double star on access. The knowledge workers, desk workers will be in their homes, and our operation staff will be on site. So we're doing a hybrid. It becomes very clear that that's what we needed to do. Objectives and timing. Now, if you need to turn something around really quickly, we would probably recommend virtual, or you would probably recommend virtual. But if things can wait, you maybe consider face-to-face. Now, what we're seeing on timing is our clients are saying, great, virtual, great, we're going to have a workshop in 3 days, and I'm going to give you the okay on Sunday. So you can see that the timings have squished quite dramatically. So you still need an event for 100 people, but you've got 3 days. So being the calm in the storm, can I just recommend that you push back and go, no, we still need 3 weeks to plan it. So that would be my calm in the storm recommendation there. Now, we all have different contexts. We have different roles. We have different other criteria to think through. So we have a little box at the bottom, which Tim is going to invite us to think through, so that we can then make it kind of personal to our own situations. Tim?
Yeah, and there I think where we can really add value as comms people is a deeper strategic question about first live meeting, for instance. Let's say you have a leadership team who've been working remotely from each other, and you really feel that you've gotten enough yeses that you feel like, okay, we can go live. That's got to be a particularly impactful moment, or the first time you get the field force back in the office, or the first time that two individuals who haven't seen each other in months, and that they're a really tight duo, can you find a way to put them together? So thinking like, okay, so for myself, where will hybrid or live be of its greatest strategic value? And maybe I'm not involved at all. Maybe I'm putting the right people together, even if it's 4 people in a breakout room for half a day who have been in lockdown for some period of time, could be, I think, very interesting. And then all sorts of other, permutations given your own business. So what we would love to do is give you a chance to reflect on the decision tree and answer that question for yourselves, and to break you out into pairs. And the exercise is real simple. It's got 2 parts. In part 1, you take 60 seconds to write down your own criteria or any other reflection about the decision tree, but write down your own criteria. And then you share and compare with your partner. So 1 minute to write, 4 minutes to share and compare with your partner. Then we'll come back and hear a few of these. So a little bit of best practice and experience sharing. I just saw Peter do exactly the right thing, which is get out your phone. I'm assuming you have a phone. Get out your phone, take a photograph of the screen so you have that handy with you as you go into your breakout. So just another thing is to show the game board here. And I think that and someone mentioned it earlier that like, oh, well, let's just do it as a Zoom call and let's just do it tomorrow. And it's like, well, no, you still need to make interactivity really great and the experience really great. So this was our checklist. It's like we want to tick as many of these boxes for a live event as possible, and you should be doing that for a virtual solution as well. And I think that the 24-hour-a-day Zoom call is giving virtual meetings a really bad brand. And in the same way that in live, we have meetings and then we have meetings, or we have meetings and then a philosophical question: when does a meeting become an event, right? Like there is somehow this difference of preparation, difference of location, difference of experience. And what I'm worried about is that the endless Zoom call is going to make virtual, people are going to have antibodies the minute you mention it. So if you bring enough of these elements into the experience, and I'm sure you've been doing it, we call it an integrated learning journey or a path, where what would have been a 1 or 2 day meeting becomes like a 2-week experience with different types of elements. One of them is podcasting, creating original podcasts with your clients so that you can tell everyone, okay, here's the deal. You need to listen to this 45-minute discussion, which would have been a plenary or a webinar. And the only rule is you have to listen to it while doing the dishes or ironing or working out or going for a walk, like let's mix it up and use more channels. So we just thought you might find this useful as well. Next up, we have for you a choice to make. So we're going to share, we've created these models, and they are meant for just quick little cheat sheet almost on things that you can do as the comms person to help your team, help your clients. So I'll talk through all 4, very top line, and then we vote on the 1, maybe 2 given time, but probably 1 that we'll go to in some more detail. So echo. The idea of echo is just to say, okay, we need a structure for thinking about remote communication planning, especially on the small team level. And ECHO stands for empathy, channels, healthy, and ongoing. And the ongoing has a double meaning of not overwhelming, ongoing but not overwhelming. So simple model that you can teach to your clients and you can use as a communication plan, a quick and easy communication plan. The second is around meeting, and this is when we meet again kind of idea, and putting extra attention to that and making it something very special. So meaning, the M in meet is an acronym as well. The M is for meaning. What is the deep purpose? If you have not read The Art of Gathering by Priya Parker, shame on you. If you're a comms professional, you've not read this book, you must get it. It's fantastic. So she might use the word purpose. We cannot use categories. It's not an offsite. It's like, it's not an update meeting. It's not a weekly status call. What's the purpose? What's the meaning of the meeting? The E again is for empathy. We have engagement and thankfulness. Anyway, we could talk through those details, but you're going to design the best first live meeting for people possible. Number 3 is stay connected. And here is the idea of asynchronous communication and prioritizing asynchronous. And you should, every time the idea is to have a call, a virtual call, you should be saying, well, how could we make this asynchronous? So we've got ideas for using all sorts of third-party content in a creative way, creating your own podcasts, which I think is just the most underutilized tool in communication right now, and laughter, finding a way to replicating the coffee chats and the lunch chats and all of that. So we've got some ideas there. And then B5, this is aimed at leaders. I think, what does Warren Buffett say about investors? When the tide goes out, you know who's been swimming naked, right? And the tide, COVID-19 for leadership has taken the tide right out. And those who've been swimming naked have been instantly revealed. And so B5 is just a simple methodology to be able to say to your senior leader, okay, here are 5 things that you need to be doing in your communication, or you're letting the team down. So these are 4 tools, and we have time, I think, to talk about one of them in some more detail. So please vote now.
Okay. So I'll share the results. This is where we're at. So stay connected was the top one.
Okay. So stay connected. So the basic idea here is around asynchronous communication. And the notion is that you want to get this picture of the people that you're wanting to communicate with. So let's say it's a cross-functional, pretty complex, a cross-functional team, much simpler, a functional team who are together on a regular basis. They've all been split out remotely. And you as the comms person want to be thinking very much around desk time. And it's almost like their agendas become your comms plan. So it's like thinking in 3 dimensions. So I want us to stay connected and feel very, very bonded, but I can't have you all stuck on calls. So how am I going to do that? So the first idea is link. So let's say popular topics like agility or design thinking or leadership or innovation. The beautiful thing about all of these topics, what they all have in common, is there's an exquisite number of podcasts in the world. For me, Curious Minds, Hidden Brain, Freakonomics. I mean, it's a long list, high quality, very rich. So let's say you've probably all heard of Angela Duckworth's book, Grit. Just Google Angela Duckworth podcast and bang, you find a 30 to 45 minute awesome interview, professionally done. Or go on to Peter Sandbach's favorite website, TED, and find a great TED Talk. Why did I bring that up? Find a great TED Talk on the topic. And what you say to everybody is you send it out Monday morning. So you say to the leader, hey leader, instead of banging on about curiosity, instead of you banging on about it, why don't we have Gail Allen's interview with thought leader X? Oh, here, Amy Edmondson.
Oh, brilliant.
Who is the psychological safety thought leader. Yeah. So don't you talk about psychological safety. Send Amy Edmondson and just say, hey, dear team, this is super, super important to me. I want you to listen to this. Go iron, go run. And then maybe at the end of the week on our quick end of week call, I can say, so what did you think of Amy's podcast?
So Tim, I did that because I'm on the D&I working group.
Yes.
And I said, there was basically lots of people with lots of will, but no skill, like no idea about the topic of D&I. So I said, let's start with psychological safety. Here's a perfect 11-minute TED Talk.
So that's idea number one. Idea number two, hands up if you have been creating custom podcasts for your clients. Hands up. Kate. Okay, so the technology, well, Kate, you tell me, how's it going creating custom podcasts for your clients?
Well, I wouldn't.
The other extreme of that, we've been doing training for MSLs for a client, and we've gotten global KOLs onto a 45-minute call moderated by the head of medical affairs. So heavy hitters going into some, bizarrely detailed, like the data within the data within the data, like the hazard ratio of the paper, like the thing that only 90 people in the world are interested in, but those 90 people are those MSLs.
Yeah.
So it costs us nothing to make it. It's a 1 hour Zoom for the participants, just as Kate has suggested. It's a 1 hour Zoom call. You're hitting record, a little bit more behind it than that. And then out it goes as MP3. And if it's bespoke, very, very nicely targeted, I think you're going to find it's just a great tool. And so the third one is some way to create humor, man, like a gratuitous and absolutely shamelessly, this is not serious thing. And a Slack site or a Teams link and you need the leader to model it. I've had one client who uses WhatsApp very effectively for this. And it's just like ridiculous, right? Stupid cat videos and weird homemade, humor and just like fart jokes, basically. And the lower you can, like the more you can lower the bar, the better. And what you're trying to replicate, and I would love to hear anybody's opinions on this, it's all the glue that holds people together that we're missing. I heard a fascinating talk on the idea that the majority of recognition happens in the liminal space between meeting room and hallway or elevator. So the example would be, so let's say you give a great presentation. As you're leaving the room, your boss pats you on the back and says, "Great job." And they've been so in the remote working, analysts are saying, because only 3% of Americans work remotely 5 days a week. Like it's this unbelievably small group that does it 5 days a week. So how do we replicate? And that's the idea of the laugh. It's just like, how do we replicate those informal, and the things that don't cost any money, right? The things that none of us have ever been asked to create a deliverable around. We need to create a deliverable around the water cooler, essentially. So that stay connected. I hope those ideas are useful.
So Tim, we have 9 minutes before 6 o'clock.
Okay.
So I don't know whether we want to now go on, have a discussion about this or go on to take 19.
Well, why don't we do take 19 quickly, because it's short. So take 19. I don't know if you guys were into U2 back in the day, but there was the cover of Helter Skelter on the Rattle and Hum album. Hands up if you know what I'm talking about. U2, Rattle and Hum? No? Where Bono says that Charles Manson took this song from the Beatles and we're taking it back. Am I aging myself? Am I the only one over the age of 51? Kate. So this was inspired by that, is that COVID-19 has taken a lot from us, including the bloody number 19, and we're taking it back. And the idea of take 19, it's just 19 minutes, man. It's just 19 minutes. You can do it. Your team can do it. Your boss can do it. You take 19, and you make sure that you're taking 19 throughout the day, 2 or 3 times a day. And it's just, whether it's just get up and walk out the door and walk around, go throw the ball for the dog, rearrange the photos in your closet, call your mom, fold laundry. I don't care what it is, because there's something about this laptop, especially for people like us someone said it earlier, right? I write words and I make images. That's what I do. So my laptop, which is the way I make my living, is just like, it's like the sun. Like, everything is pulled in towards it, and I'm here. So take 19 says, take 19 minutes and get the hell out and do something different. Do it several times a day and you'll feel much, much, much better. That's the idea.